Warning! This podcast contains spoilers. We'll be discussing seasons 1 through 4 of Code Lyoko and may refer to any and all supplementary material from the novels through to the live-action Code Lyoko Evolution. So if you don't already know how many bananas Odd has for breakfast, and if you don't already know whether or not Sissy really did get that nose job, you're about to find out! Here we are, going far, to podcast all that we love. Hello everyone, and welcome to A Podcast Without Danger, where we will be returning to the past week by week to rewatch and review every episode of Code Lyoko, the 2003 animated series created by Thomas Roman and Tanya Palumbo. Let's get ready to virtualize as we go through the heartwarming moments, near-death experiences, and incredibly silly jokes from this weird and wonderful show. I'm souljelly, and stepping into the scanners with me are my wonderful co-hosts, my fellow Lyoko warriors, Quitter10 and Dianna, with 2 N's, and no B's, if the lack of buzzing on Dianna's side of the audio is to be believed.
It's funny because one of my friends, this guy that I've been friends with for like 10 years, he calls me Dianna Banana. He's like the only person in my life that does that. It's very endearing. Anyway, can we talk about going into this episode, how this is the second and final episode that Odd and Sissy have different voice actors?
Yeah, for sure. We didn't touch on that when it was it Teddy Godzilla they had different voice actors,
yeah,
the first
Teddy
one?
Godzilla.
Yeah, so who is voice acting them this episode, as opposed to the usual?
I believe it's Christine Flowers for Sissy.
Yeah, that's for Sissy.
Mm-hmm.
And
then...
please go ahead. I can't remember Odd's.
Christoph Caballero, for this episode, and Teddy Godzilla. Usually it's Matthew Gexy.
Okay, yeah, who also voices, I think, a few of the people in the series. I'm so bad at recognising voices. I should not be doing this part of the podcast.
He voices Odd and Nicholas.
Yeah, there we go.
And who voices Sissy regularly for the series?
Jodie Forrest.
Jodie Forrester.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, last time you'll hear these particular voices for these two. Once I was aware that they were different voices, I was like, oh yeah, they do sound different, but I just never really pick up on that.
Sissy sounds more different than she usually does with this different voice actor. Odd, I feel like there is a slight difference in the voice and inflection, but it's not like as noticeable as Sissy's.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
Shall we crack on with season 4? Has anyone got any first impressions, remembrances? Episode 4. That is the one. I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm fine. I've got my coffee. It's all okay. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just feel so frazzled. I'm really tired. So, yeah, episode 4 of season 1 is Logbook, written by Francois Chapiat and storyboarded by Thomas Ostruc. Any initial thoughts, first impressions, things that you remember, anything where you were like, oh, we're doing this one, this is the one where, etc., etc.?
I mean, I remembered it, before rewatching it, I pretty much remembered it as it being the one where Santa nearly crashes a bus into something or other.
Yep.
That's about it, really.
It's a pretty memorable Xanu attack. It's pretty nightmarish, honestly.
It really is. I remembered it also, obviously it's the one where Sissy blackmails Ulrich, and we'll talk more about that later, how there's kind of like a double standard with the blackmailing in this episode, because it's not good when Sissy does it, but it's perfectly fine when Yumi does it.
It's context, but we'll get there when we get there, I suppose.
For sure. That said, let's get into the recap so we can get into that juicy discussion about ethics and so on. So this episode begins with Ulrich's clock striking 7:30. Odd's eager to head down to breakfast, but Ulrich's rummaging through his things looking for something important. Whatever it is, isn't in the wardrobe or in his drawers. And we're going to pause straight away because one of the things I like doing during these recaps is pausing on certain frames to see what the characters have in their bedrooms. And does Ulrich have nunchucks in his bedroom drawer? Because I was like, what the heck? He's got like a very 90s Game Boy console. He's got a cassette tape. He's got a random assortment of books, marbles, a pencil case and everything. And he's got nunchucks. I swear he's got nunchucks. Did anyone else see this?
No, yeah, they are. They totally are.
Why did he never use these Earthside of a Xana attack? The missed potential. Fuming.
Was it you, Quitter, who said that he was probably worried he was going to hit himself in the face?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of half joking, but like the more I think about it, probably. I mean, we all know Ulrich is allergic to like putting himself out there and making fun of himself or whatnot.
For sure.
Yeah, he definitely is.
I can absolutely imagine him buying them like, yeah, I'm going to impress Yumi. I'm going to look so badass with these. And then the anxiety of like, no, wait, what if I mess this up? Oh, no, I can't use them. I'm just not going to bother. I can totally see that. But yeah, great background detail for Ulrich there that I just had to comment on.
I'd also like to mention that in the script for this episode, it was before this scene where Odd is like, when are we going to go to breakfast? I'm hungry. And then Ulrich's looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's in medias res. So basically, we're shown the scene that comes up later where, like, the boss is, like, turning and going crazy. And then Jeremy's looking at the map, seeing where it goes.
Ooh.
And then we go to the first scene.
Oh, that's really interesting. I don't think...
Oh,
yeah, I like
they
that.
had stuck with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they ever do, like, in medias res in Code Lyoko episode.
No,
not that I'm aware of. I guess maybe they tried it out with this script and then just kind of... It didn't translate well, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, no, super interesting. Cut to the cafeteria where Odd and Jeremy are finishing breakfast. Odd having eaten 8 slices of toast and 3 bananas. Where does he put it all is the big mystery of the show. Like, honestly, that guy.
You know, his metabolism. I'm so envious.
Jeremy's planning to skip gym class again to work on Alita's materialization program. Dianna?
I just want to go back a second to Odd at breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he have a bowl? He ate. I have this in my notes. I literally have this written in my notes. He ate toast and bananas. Why?
He probably had like cereal too or something.
I would assume so. Either that or he just like filled his whole entire bowl with hot chocolate or something. Because like I literally have written, why does Odd have a bowl if he ate 8 slices of toast and 3 bananas, which is also a ton of food. Like I am also very envious of his metabolism, and I'm sure that, like, obviously I'm reading way too much into this. It's not that deep. But I just think it was a really odd animation choice for him to have a bowl on the table in front of him.
That is really funny. I must admit, for all my freeze framing, I had not noticed that. Maybe he sliced up all his 3 bananas and, like, put the slices in the bowl and then ate them with a fork.
Maybe.
I don't know.
France is weird.
Yeah, like, I don't know what they do in France. It's been many years since I went there, so...
Oh, my French teacher when I was in middle school said that they cut up their pizza with a knife and fork.
There you go. It sort of makes sense, I guess. Wild. Sissy is waiting for Ulrich outside of his room. She wants to talk, and sinister background music plays, so we know it can't be anything good. The bell rings and Yumi heads into school to meet Jeremy and Odd. Look over there, she says with surprise. It's Ulrich, and he's sitting on the steps with Sissy. Also, the way Odd and Jeremy peer out from behind the tree here is so cute. I love it.
I know, it really is.
It really is.
I love this little scene. Odd calls over, but Ulrich doesn't join them. Through their conversation, we learn that Sissy is blackmailing him somehow. The others watch from afar, shocked, as Sissy takes Ulrich by the hand and pulls him away. Ulrich Stern, title card. Any lasting thoughts on Sissy and Sissy and Ulrich in this whole scene?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So last episode, Sissy confessed to Jim that she wanted to join their group. Now, I think that this is out of production order, the airing that we're seeing these in, like, as viewers. Mm-hmm. But if she wanted to join their group so damn badly, why is she blackmailing Ulrich? That is the exact opposite way to go about things.
It's interesting, hey, because it kind of, her motivations seem to differ between I want to hang out with Ulrich and I want to hang out with the group. And
right.
You can see if her motivation is, I want to hang out with Ulrich, I want Ulrich's full attention, etc., this makes sense in a twisted kind of way. But it doesn't line up with, I want to be part of their group, I want to be friends with them. Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting piece of inconsistency, and yeah, again, it really, you can kind of justify it by kind of, you know, talking about Sissy and her background and her complicated relationships with parents, etc. But yeah, I don't know, it's a little weird. I guess we need to look at the difference between writers in these episodes versus Sissy's characterization. I think that's going to be really interesting to get into.
Dianna, you were talking about production order. This one was the 5th produced. The 4th was Swarming Attack, which was aired as number 12. But there's no real big Sissy thing in Swarming Attack, so it doesn't really change much.
Right, but was this produced before or after Holiday in the Fog, I guess?
Afterwards.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we had a return to the past, and Soul is right that Sissy's motivation definitely differs depending on what her mood is that day and who the writers are that week. But I just thought it was very interesting that she's going about trying to be friends with Ulrich or friends with the group in like the shittiest way possible. Like, nobody wants to be friends with a blackmailer.
She does have this realization later when Yumi's reading from her diary. She's like, I know it's bad, I know what I'm doing isn't very nice, but it's the only way I can get him to pay attention to me. But yeah, so she's got some self-awareness, and there's definitely an element of desperation here. But it really, if you think about it, someone needs to basically have taken Sissy aside and be like, honey, this does not make any sense. Like, think carefully about this, you know? But of course,
right.
True.
Who's going to do that for her? Like, Nick doesn't have the self-awareness, I'd imagine. Herv wouldn't want to do anything to facilitate Sissy becoming friends with these people. So, yeah. But no, definitely an interesting point. Ulrich Stern title card. We get a brief snippet of a history class on 17th century monarchy, with Ulrich now seated next to Sissy, who stares at him adoringly. Ard and Jeremy cannot figure out what's going on. Why is Ulrich hanging out with her all of a sudden? Herv, sitting next to Emily DeLuc, is seething with jealousy, and Ard gets called out in class for not paying attention. After class, Sissy leaves with her arm through Ulrich's. Ard grabs her and pulls her away, which gives Jeremy the chance to ask Ulrich what's wrong. This is such a great little moment for these two.
It is.
Oh yeah, great coordination.
I was just going to note that Jeremy's been pretty quiet this entire time. Like, Ard's been the one like, whoa, what's going on? And like, kind of like, you know, being really visibly vocally shocked. And Jeremy's just been a little kind of nonplussed about it, I guess. I don't know, it's interesting to see their reactions. Ard continues to distract Sissy out in the courtyard, and Ulrich finally divulges what's going on. He's in a jam, big time. He's been keeping a diary, and Sissy's taking it and is using it to blackmail him into dating her. Again, I really like Jeremy's like, you're keeping a diary from Ulrich here, which is just like a little, I don't know, I guess my thought was, does Jeremy still think of Ulrich as one of the cool kids? He's like, but you're like, you know, you're so cool. Why does a jock like keep a diary? Although I guess it's probably more about, as he continues onwards, to say, you're not writing down Lyoko and Aelita and everything, are you? I don't know, did anyone else?
Yeah, of course he is.
Yeah.
What else goes on in Ulrich's life? Sorry, but like...
Yumi.
It's Yumi and Lyoko.
Yumi.
Those are the two constants in his life.
And I guess I couldn't sleep because Odd was snoring, and Kiwi chewed up my stuff, and I'm failing this class or that class, and Jeremy's cool, I guess. Nothing to write home about. He should probably sleep.
My dad is a dick, and I have to play soccer to appease him.
Yeah.
Ranting about his parents.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's a real angst fest right there. 13, 14-year-old Ulrich Stern's diary. Yeah. Jeremy asks if Ulrich's written about Xana or Lyoko in this diary of his. He did, and Sissy's going to share it with everyone if Ulrich doesn't go along with what she wants. Which, again, this is the real meat of the episode, right? This is some seriously creepy behaviour from Sissy, and I'm always like, oh, I really like Sissy, like she's an interesting, multifaceted character, but I do find it hard to justify being a fan of her when she's this bad, honestly. I'm just like, no, Sissy, please behave. But...
I mean, no need to justify it. I mean, she's just... I mean, I love her too, but, like, this is just...
Yeah, I love her too, but I just don't love her in this light.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a bad look for her.
For sure. And we're probably going to talk about this a little more later on, but it's very interesting that Sissy now knows about Lyoko and the factory, and obviously we don't know how much detail Ulrich's written, but do you think in between scenes here she's asked him about any of this? Like, hey, I saw you wrote in your diary that, you've written about all this stuff. Because honestly, I find it difficult to imagine that she has not read that diary cover to cover. Like, looking for any mention of her, as soon as she got it, she probably sat down and read it, right? I don't know.
Right. Well, Yumi later on
probably
does say that because we'll get to that, but Yumi does say later on that Sissy knows about Lyoko but doesn't understand what it is and is ready to use it to get what she wants. But I guarantee you that her main focus, obviously, once she found the diary, which was not her intention when she initially went into their room, was to look for any mention of herself and how he wrote about her in the book.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting that, it was like, wow, I could go and find the secret virtual world that's alluded to here, or I could just hang out with this guy. But she's a teenage girl. It makes sense.
Yeah. She's got her
She
priorities.
does.
Yeah, and her priorities do not involve fighting an AI.
That is true, actually. Would you willingly opt in to the fight against Xana, if you knew what the stakes were? Probably not. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
William did.
He did.
Well, William was a bit...
Yeah.
William felt like he had something to prove, for sure. Well, hey, sorry, this is a little off topic, but, there's a question to you two. If you knew what the stakes were and you got invited to be a Lyoko warrior, would you do it? Is that too difficult to answer or not?
I mean, I'd probably... If you know the secret, you can't really walk away just like that. I mean, unless you do a return to the past. I guess they'd give you the option to. I'd probably, if I couldn't just forget everything with the return to the past, I guess I'd remain in more of a supporting / helping role, I guess. I mean, I probably wouldn't be the one to go to Lyoko. And I probably, I'm definitely not the sort of type to be able to fight off anything Santa throws at us. But I mean,
I have the same thought process. I would not want to deal with whatever attack is happening on Earth because as we move later on into the show, they get really rough. I would rather just go to Lyoko and fight, but that's not easy. Even compared to fighting on Earth. So I don't know. I think that I would have to deliberate on it, but the thing about me is that I also would want to help. So it's shit,
totally.
what do I do?
I definitely want to help, but I have no idea how. I mean, I guess going into Lyoko, I mean, as risky as it is, with the digital sea and everything, it's easier / less risky than fighting with Xana
for sure.
enough. But at the same time, it'd be so ungrateful and a bit rude in a sense.
Yeah, because
always be the one.
Because they're always taking turns dealing with the stuff on Earth versus the stuff on Lyoko. So I feel you're signing up to do both.
Yeah,
obviously.
I don't think you could really be the person who's I'll do it, but I'll just do the Lyoko stuff if that's okay with you.
Right.
They'd be fuck off.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just interesting.
What about you, Soul?
I think it really is a moral dilemma, right? Could you know about that and know what they're going through and willingly walk away from it, right? I think if I happened to get my memory erased by the return to the past, I wouldn't be unhappy about it. It's a lot of responsibility.
Same.
It's a big one. I think younger me might have been different, but, older me is tired and has bad knees and probably wouldn't really hold up. So, but yeah, thanks for indulging me on that very off-topic question.
No, it was a good question, and also I think it's one that we
totally
should pose to the listeners.
I agree.
Because I'd be interested to hear everybody's answers.
Definitely. Would you join the Lyoko Warriors given the grim reality of what they face? Email us and let us know. apodcastwithoutdanger@gmail.com. Okay, on to the recap. Placing a hand on Ulrich's shoulder, Jeremy reassures him that they'll find the diary. Meanwhile, Sissy yells at Odd. For the last time, I did not have a nose job, so stop asking. And Ulrich... I love this bit. And Ulrich steps in to tell Odd to leave her alone too. He puts his arm around Sissy and they walk away. It's nothing, Jeremy tells a stunned Odd. I'll explain. Also, Artie's like kind of jealous this episode, you know?
Oh yeah, did you see that last look he sent like Sissy right before that scene cuts off?
Definitely. It's like he's rattled by this for sure. Although I did talk about,
he really is.
Yeah, I did talk about this briefly on Discord, but I do wonder about the progression of Odd and Ulrich's friendship from like the mildly antagonistic pair that they are in Xena Awakens to the ride or die buddies we see throughout the rest of the show, you know?
Yeah. I just want to talk about Jeremy here for a quick second in this particular scene.
For sure.
He is remarkably calm.
Yes.
Remarkably. If this were season 2 onward, Jeremy, he would be having a fucking meltdown. Because, like, everything that they had worked for is at stake in this particular situation. Like, genuinely, he'd be pissed. He'd probably ostracize Ulrich from the group, even though he didn't do anything, because he just does irrational shit sometimes, Jeremy. And it just, I'm shocked, because, like, he's just like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll find the diary. Don't worry about it. And I'm thinking to myself, who are you?
And to be fair, like, it's not really Ulrich's fault.
It's not, but Jeremy just has weird hang-ups about things.
He is very neurotic. I guess in this early in the season, he's probably much less sleep deprived and under much less pressure. Is the only way I can explain that characterization in universe.
No, yeah, totally. He's very chill.
He is. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't even really thought about it from that perspective. I was like, ooh, just like, you know, that's a nice Jeremy and Ulrich scene. But yeah, if this had been season 2 or onwards later.
Yeah, because he's Jeremy, just so paranoid in later episodes. In season 1, he's definitely at his most chill. And I know that's because of the producers and writers, but it's just crazy to think that he's like, he has 2 different personalities.
Yeah, definitely. Like, is this the same, even the same person? For sure. Sinister music plays, electricity crackles, sentient smoke creeps out of an electrical box. You know the drill. It's time for our favourite evil AI to get up to its usual tricks. This time a school bus is under attack. A bus, which Jim tells us, is the pinnacle of modern technology. It's an electric bus. Odd reckons this is likely to go as fast as a snail. I love the whole, like, interaction here. It's really silly. And Jim just being, like, geeking out about this bus technology.
Yeah, I do too. It's actually a really good scene between Jim and Odd. And it's interesting, too, for the times, because, you know, this was aired in the early 2000s, where I don't know, obviously, what the status was on electric vehicles, especially in Europe. I would imagine that they were not as commonplace. But now they're, like, everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't quite have time to look at kind of the progression of electric car technology ahead of this episode, but I did find this quite interesting as well, that it's kind of just marked as this huge significant thing. Anyway, the bus, however snazzy and technologically advanced it may be, is no stranger to getting possessed by Xana. An unwitting Odd climbs aboard with a friendly little wave to the driver, who's about to get electrocuted by the wheel. The black smoke pours across the controls, but they shrug off these concerning technical difficulties in order to head to the swimming pool. They were really casual about this.
Oh yeah, this is so blasé. Yeah. Like, you're like, imagine you're Jim and you're like, suddenly the driver like gasps in surprise and you're like, what's going on? And then you see like all the meters going actually crazy, and then a random huge shadow just flies up through the screen, and you're like, whatever, sit down students, we're going to the
Also, can we talk about how the driver sounds like Delmas but with an accent?
Yes. God, aren't there like 5 voice actors in the show collectively, like more or less?
Yeah, oh my God. And the history teacher, like when they were in class, Mr. Fumet, the voice actor was literally using the same exact voice that he uses for Delmas. It was so weird.
It's always amusing. Yeah, it is a little jarring, okay? You're just like, oh yeah, no, wait, that's not him.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I remember correctly, what happened was that they did the English dub in France itself. So they had to find, like, dub actors there in France that were, like, absolutely fluent in English. So, It's a pretty small pool.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Oh, well, it's all part of the charm of the show, I guess.
Totally.
Cut to the next scene with Yumi's fist colliding with Jeremy's Einstein poster.
I love that.
Which is just a really... Me too.
Yeah.
Such an iconic...
It wasn't on the script.
Really? Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. It just says Yumi faces Jeremy with a frown.
Oh, that's so interesting that they added that in post then in animation. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know, it's just really random, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yumi's shocked that Sissy would blackmail Ulrich, not to mention the risk of their secret being revealed. She's going to go through Sissy's room in a way that isn't any kind of double standard at all, but it's fine. And Jeremy heads to the factory. They tell one another good luck in unison before heading off on their respective missions.
They just have the mentality of 2 wrongs make a right.
It's a little sketchy. I mean, I guess at this point she is only going to look for the diary, but what comes a little bit later is a bit yikes.
Yeah, the scene that like plays out, the little flashback thing when she's reading Sissy's diary, I have some notes on that because I'm just it gives a lot of insight into Sissy's character. But I love this scene with Jeremy and Yumi. We were seriously robbed after season 1 with their friendship moments because they're just like 2 peas in a pod here. And then we get into season 2 onwards and they like barely talk.
I know, for sure, right? They have such a nice... they have similar energy. They're on the same wavelength, I think.
Yeah.
They're both kind of mature and reserved and kind of quite serious and kind of dedicated to their respective passions. It's nice.
Yeah. He's like the smartest. He's like the brain of the group, and she's like the heart of the group, in a sense.
Yeah, but she also does occasionally carry the one brain cell.
That is true.
She's got the common sense.
Yeah. I feel like she thinks Jeremy, she sees him as a little brother. Obviously, Ulrich's kind of her romantic interest, and I don't know, maybe she sees Odd in a little brother role as well, but I can definitely see
Odd as an annoying little brother.
Yeah, right, you know.
I mean, she should be used to having an annoying little brother along with Hiroki.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I guess don't know him yet as the viewer.
True.
That is true. Ulrich Stern title card. Factory montage as Jeremy connects with Alita on Lyoko. To answer our question from a previous episode, Alita's been using the internet to study Earth a little more. There are so many strange things to discover, she says. Judging by Jeremy's little smile here, he's touched that she's so keen on learning about Earth. Did you see this little frame where he's just got this little smile in his face and his eyebrows are kind of like drawn down? It's really cute.
I did. It was so cute.
He's like,
it was.
I guess like, in that moment he's totally like thinking about her like coming to Earth, and he's like, oh, so cute. He gets a call from Odd. Something strange is happening on the bus, i.e. the driver doesn't seem able to control it. Another title card, Odd this time. Back to Yumi, who picks the lock to Sissy's room and snoops around in an unsuccessful search for the diary. Except she does find this incredibly creepy pillow. It's like in the shape of a love heart, it says, I love you, and it has arms, which are kind of like doll arms, kind of.
Yeah.
Creepy as heck. Anyway, inside this creepy pillow, Yumi finds the next best thing to Ulrich's diary, Sissy's diary. She flips through it and finds a photo of Ulrich surrounded by hearts and his name written a dozen times. Classic teenage girl with a crush territory here, honestly. Like, this is, I don't know. I'm surprised it didn't say, like, Mrs. Sissy Stern or something, or, like, Elizabeth Stern, you know, like, the same way, like, teenagers, like, smush their names together or whatever. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, Diana, you had thoughts on the well, yeah, this part, right?
Yes. So Yumi starts reading Sissy's diary, and she gets to a recent entry where Sissy had gone into Ulrich and Odd's room to find a picture of Ulrich, which I'm assuming is the picture that's in her diary. And she found his diary. Now, as we talked about earlier, she does admit that what she's not doing isn't nice, and she realizes that, and yada yada. But when you guys were watching this, did you notice that she just, like, waltzed right into their room? Like, they didn't lock the door. Unless she picked it. Unless she picked it before she went in and we just didn't see that. But I'm thinking to myself, like, you two You should be locking your door. Odd has the dog, and like Ulrich has his diary, and what if there's any other sensitive information linking them to Xana or Lyoko in there that like any random person could just find?
Not to mention the nunchucks.
Yeah, that too.
Anyone could take those and just start walking around with them. Yeah, hadn't thought about that. I assumed that she picked the lock. I don't think she would have stolen a key. I feel like that would have been more of a plot point if it had been the case.
No, I think she either picked the lock or that they left the door unlocked and didn't realize it. Like maybe Odd forgot to lock it or something.
For sure.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, there's ways that could have happened, but it's definitely worth realizing, and it's kind of given kind of how paranoid they all become later on and like kind of overly cautious. It's another one of those early fight against Xana things where they're probably just a bit more lax, and it's an interesting bit of it's an interesting thing to see develop later on.
Yeah, and also going back, sorry, just like a quick second to the scene where they're on the bus and Odd's calling Jeremy. I found it very interesting, and I have this in my notes, that Xana is following the laws of traffic.
Yeah,
I literally put that in my notes too. Like Xana obeying the rules, accelerating properly. Well, I mean, it does plow through a bunch of cars.
Right, but like he stopped at a light. Like he, I'm assuming he used the blinker. Like.
I am taking driving lessons right now, and Xana is definitely a better driver than me. Confirmed.
Very polite for a virtual.
Yeah,
AI.
very polite for a virtual AI that wants to kill everybody.
It's because he wants to kill him in style by driving them into the chemical plant.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Not kill him yet. Oh, amazing. So we have this excerpt from the diary that ends with, now they have the diary, he can't possibly turn me down. I know what I'm doing isn't very nice, but it's the only way I can get him to stop ignoring me. And Yumi slams the diary closed, angry at Sissy's sneakiness. I just want to go back to a point that I didn't get to make earlier. Much later on in the series, in Marabouta, we get this piece of Sissy and Ulrich's history that's quite interesting. She says, the line in the English dub, I believe, is, I've had a crush on him since elementary school. So they have known each other for quite a while. They have history. And I do wonder, this is kind of veering into fanon territory, so like, kind of bear with me, but I do wonder if the two of them actually did hang out prior to Xana Awakens. Like, my speculation is that maybe Ulrich was looking for an excuse to ditch Sissy as she became increasingly overbearing and jealous and kind of infatuated with him, and the whole Lyoko thing would have been the perfect excuse to just kind of stop hanging out with her.
Oh, I think that's a really good theory. I think that we can kind of see that a little bit in the prequel. I haven't watched it in a billion years, but there are definitely there's a lot more animosity towards Sissy in these, like, throughout the whole series. But then we see the prequel and how they are acting around her, and it's kind of like a completely different story until the events of the prequel happen, and then they all hate her.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I could see it happening that, like, their relationship was, like, typical normal friends. Maybe, Sissy did have a crush. And who knows, maybe Ulrich had one on her too. And then when, like, Sissy's mom left, either through a divorce or whatever the reason, she became, like, more, like, I'm not going to say possessive, but more, like, she wanted to, like, be more with, like, the other stable things in her life she had left, which was pretty much, like, Ulrich and her mom. Her dad. But then, like, Ulrich didn't really like all that attention. He is how he is. And then, like, they slowly started to, like, withdraw from each other more and more until, Xana Awakens was pretty much the breaking point.
Yeah, I can get behind that as some headcanon. That makes a lot of sense to me. And it adds an extra layer of depth to Sissy's resentment here and anger and stuff like that. My kind of thought with fanon and headcanon is if the show doesn't out and outright disprove it or say, like, no, this didn't happen, then it's fair game, So, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I really like your addition there, Quitter. I think that's really neat. Again, if you're listening to the podcast and you've got any thoughts, if you want to contradict us, if you want to add in any further thoughts on Sissy's backstory and a history of Ulrich, let us know. I am super, super, super interested to hear them.
Yeah, I am too. The good thing about doing this podcast is that we've been able to build up a little community here on Discord and on Twitter and like kind of bounce thoughts and ideas off of each other. And I love that about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
For sure. So one last thing to add on Sissy's journal entry and a thoughts here is obviously she had this in Holiday in the Fog, which if we're going by the airing order, she just had this revelation of like, you know, oh, I really want to be part of this group, etc. And she almost saw Ulrich die. She was forced to put some faith in Jeremy as the only person around at the school who might have been able to save her, or so she thought. She even had like the nice moment with Herb on the phone, and all of that got erased, right? So instead, what basically probably happened was she either ended up going to visit her grandparents over the holidays, or she stayed at school, but Jeremy and Ulrich hung out together and ignored her the entire time.
Ooh,
so
I
she's
love
kind
that.
of... Yeah, so she's
Yeah.
like feeling pretty resentful, you know. If you kind of think about this episode in the context of what has just come from before it and what she didn't get to have due to the RTTP, it's another bit of interesting insight into her, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
That is really interesting.
I've thought a lot about Sissy, as you might be able to tell. Yeah, she's a troubled kid. She's got a lot going on. I'm not saying any of what she does here is justified, but it's really interesting to see how she might have reached this point where she's acting this way.
Yeah, it's really interesting
Like, you
for
can
her
understand
character
it.
analysis.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we're here for. Deep dives, people. Deep dives.
And some a bit more shallow.
Yeah, for sure. On the phone to Jeremy, Yumi explains what she's found. She tells him that indeed Sissy knows about Lyoko. She doesn't really understand what it is, but she's more than ready to use what she knows. The pressure is on to find Ulrich's diary before their class returns from the swimming pool. Yumi Ashiyama, title card! On the bus, Sissy suggests asking her father if her and Ulrich can go to a movie tonight. He's monotone and distant, not even looking at her, and Sissy becomes annoyed, saying she might not be as nice to him if he keeps this up. Pay attention to me, or the whole school is going to read your diary. And then her phone rings. It's Yumi. Why does Yumi have Sissy's number, by the way?
You know, that's a good question, but we also have Jeremy who commits cyber crimes, so I'm sure that he was able to get her number easily.
True.
I guess.
But that's a will, that's a way.
That was kind of my, kind of what I thought too, but it just kind of made me laugh.
Also, look at Ulrich's face here. Like, when Sissy says, oh, it's Yumi. Hold on, I'll send a screenshot in the chat, and we will share this on Twitter. I just thought it was absolutely perfect. He's just, like, shocked.
Yeah.
Literal jaw drop. And
I've
Sissy
been
is so
saved.
pissed.
Yumi saved me.
Incredible. I love it. So, yeah, we have Yumi on the other end of the phone, sitting in the toilet stall in the girls' bathroom, and begins reading excerpts from Sissy's diary, including a rather unsavoury comment about Jim, who apparently looks like a quote-unquote dipstick in that quote-unquote sweaty gym outfit
I've
of his.
never heard, like, dipstick as an insult before.
She used that on Millie and
It's
Tamia in Teddy Godzilla.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know, like... But, like, it's just so... I laughed when I heard it then, and I laughed when I heard it now. Like, in Spanish, she just calls him, like, airhead or, like, knucklehead. It doesn't really have a literal translation. But,
sure.
yeah, definitely not... Like, something quite a bit more common than dipstick.
It is funny. It's a bit obscure. It's definitely not your average everyday insult. At least not here in the UK, it's not.
It's very characteristic.
It's not average
Yes.
either, but, like, I'm trying to remember back to around the time that this episode aired, because I don't think it was that common in America.
That's like 2004?
Yeah, it was like 2004, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody use the term dipstick in real life.
We are going to have to look up the history of that word. You know, when Google Trends like is a thing and it can chart when a word came into usage.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's our homework. Or someone, any of our listeners want to check that out for us, please do. I'm going to be very interested. Blackmail negotiations begin, and this time it's Sissy's diary that's going to go public if she doesn't tell where Ulrich's diary is hidden. She reveals that it's in the girls' bathroom in the third stall on top of the water tank. Sure enough, it's right there, right above where Yumi's sitting. She hangs up the phone. Ulrich suddenly looks a million times happier. It's good to have real friends, isn't it? He tells Sissy before moving to sit next to Odd.
I love that Odd pats the seat next to him. Sorry, like, it's just so cute.
Odd's got his buddy back. He's so happy. His little, like, shitty grin here. He's like, yeah.
Gay.
For sure. And then Herb's like, what does he say? He implies that he thought Ulrich was bothering Sissy rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah, Herb needs to really learn to read the room.
Oh, no doubt.
Totally.
And Sissy tells him to shut up. Again, their conversation from last episode was erased, which is really sad because it was quite a nice moment for them. But hey, whatever.
Alas.
Indeed. Yumi runs through campus and she's interrupted by Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. What? What's he doing here?
Yeah, this scene was so odd because, like,
it is really
I understand
random.
they're padding for time probably, but just to show her randomly and then have a teacher be like, what are you doing? Like, it was just... It doesn't flow well.
It doesn't add anything to the scene. Yeah.
But like instead of her being like, oh, I was sick, whatever, like what she does is that the script says immediately Yumi bends in half, grimacing. Yumi, cramps, sir.
Oh, really? That's
they
funny.
would never
that's
in America at that time that it aired. Never.
That's really sad. But also, yeah, probably true. But yeah, that makes... I guess that makes mildly more sense. But it still doesn't really add anything. It's still kind of random. But yeah.
Yeah, it is really random.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen this episode in a while, we will put a screenshot of Gustav Chardin, who's the arts and theatre professor who calls out to Yumi in the scene. We're going to put a screenshot in the show notes in the Discord, but he is basically Rick Sanchez before Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty existed. It is uncanny.
He looks so
like
much
they're literally
like
the
him,
same person.
Truly. All I'm saying is Rick Sanchez has a portal gun and the ability to travel between time and dimensions, so, you know.
True.
Just saying. Our Delagobia title card. Alita's feeling pulsations on Lyoko, and Jeremy confirms an activated tower in the desert sector. On the bus, we see the real horror, reused footage, as electricity crackles through the steering wheel again, and the vehicle begins to swerve out of control. Ulrich, Odd, and the bus driver try to troubleshoot the problem, but it's pretty obviously Xana. On the phone, Ulrich gives Jeremy their location, so he can try to work out where the bus might be headed. The bus speeds up, and Odd, who needs to get to Lyoko, jumps out of it.
Odd is champ.
This is bonkers. Like, my face was basically Jim's face in this episode, where Jim, like, stares after him as Odd picks himself up off the pavement and just runs away, like, bonkers. Absolutely wild. But yeah. And then we see a shot with, like, a couple of crashed cars, which I know we talked about the body bag in the last episode, but, like, is there, like, canon death for some side characters here?
I mean, Probably. Maybe. Depends. Car crashes, they're not good.
I guess it depends on the severity of the crash.
For sure. I'm going to hold Quitter, who I believe is a medical student, to car crashes are not good.
I'm only third year. I haven't studied blunt force
That's
trauma
3
yet.
more
Like,
years than we've studied, so...
That's true.
No, like, right now I'm literally, like, studying for neurology. Definitely not something related to, you know, blunt force trauma and, you know, the loss of inertia and whatever. I am not a doctor.
We will come back to you in a couple of years and you can analyse this screenshot that I'm going to put in the Discord.
Oh yeah, totally.
Thanks, bud. I'll hold you to that.
Also, but yeah, like, totally, going back to the Odd jumping out of a school bus. Like, it's got to still be slow.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise he would have
Yeah,
died,
and he
like,
just gets
literally.
up immediately. He jumps and he gets up immediately and starts moving.
This actually leads into something we'll probably discuss in depth at a later point. But do we think the scanners and the increased exposure kind of enhances their bodies on Earth and makes them a bit kind of stronger and more durable?
1,000%. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah,
with that.
I do too.
Like, I did use that.
just when you think about all the things that they go through later, I mean, I guess, again, it's fanon territory, but I do see it kind of bandied around in a lot of fic and discussion as a theory, and I think it's pretty plausible, so I feel like that could be a play here.
I do too, because, I mean, realistically, what teenager just throws their entire body out of a moving bus? He, like, landed, like, in full force with the whole front part of his body on the ground, and then he just gets up and starts running.
It's bonkers. Truly bonkers.
Yeah, he rolls in the script, but still, like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Bit too...
For sure. Anyway, Jeremy tells Yumi to head to the factory after class.
Which is
shows
weird.
A stunning lack of urgency. I was like, that's got to be a mistranslation, right?
Yeah, I have that in my notes too, because, like, why would he ever tell anybody to do anything after class if there's a Xana attack?
Yeah.
Right?
Super not Jeremy.
Yeah.
I don't think I see any of those lines in the script, actually.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, no, it is.
Is it?
Go to the factory as soon as you get out of class.
That's wild. Damn.
I guess, like, she means, he probably means, like, as soon as you make up an excuse to leave class.
Yeah, that actually makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Still.
But I think she just, like, leaves. Like, she doesn't even go to class, because the next time we see her, she's, like, on the bridge. Or she's in the sewers,
like, well,
like,
why
going.
would you go to class? Why would you go to class just to go, oh, sorry, I can't go to class?
Right,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like, there's always
and not only that, but
Yeah,
they're going to
true.
do a return
I
trip
mean-
anyway, so it doesn't matter.
In the script, there's a scene where, like, Yumi's leaving class with her classmates, and then she, like, her phone rings, so she goes to, like, one side, and then Jeremy tells her to, like, go to the factory as soon as she gets
Then
out of
that's
class.
it.
But since she's already out of class, she's already going to it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too. That was my other theory, is that, like, he called her, and class just so happened to be ending.
Yeah. That makes sense, too. Yeah. But that, when you kind of get into the particulars there and you look at the script, that does make sense. But I really had to do a double take when I listened to that. I was like, huh.
Yeah, I literally have in my notes, Jeremy is being way too casual this episode.
Right? Super weird. Jim and the bus driver tried to calm down the students trapped on the bus, and Sissy tells them she can take care of herself.
Okay, but can
Which is a
we...
great
Sorry, just, like, quick...
No, go on, I'm here for it,
What
Go.
the fuck is up with this bus driver? He literally is like,
Does
the little girl need any help? And Sissy's like, the little girl can handle herself just fine. And, like, they're buckling their seatbelts because it's a kid's show. And it's like, dude... Go away! Nobody asked for your assistance. I understand he was over there trying to calm down Herv, because, like, Herv looked like he was about to have a complete breakdown, which I relate. But at the same time, for him to immediately be like, does the little girl need any help? Like, what the fuck is that? That's so creepy. I'm sorry. I just have a lot of opinions.
No, same, honestly. Like, I would have done exactly what Sissy did in that situation, because, this bus driver is deeply unhelpful. First of all, did not recognise the red flags of his bus like fucking up in the first instance, and now he's just being completely
He's
useless.
being a complete creep.
In the script, as it goes, the bus driver and, like, Jim each take care of a separate aisle of the bus, and it seems that, like, Sissy and Herb are sitting in separate aisles. So while the bus driver takes care of Herb, Jim is the one who tries to help Sissy, and she's like, I've got it, thank you.
Oh,
I
so that's interesting that they flipped it then in the show.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'd much prefer that to have been a Sissy and Jim.
Yeah,
moment.
me too. That would have made it less weird.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, this bus driver may be one of my least favourite tertiary characters.
Oh yeah, I don't like him at all. He's useless.
I mean, he's got a combined screen time of, like, what, a minute? Apart from this episode, he shows up in, what, Lyoko -1.
I mean, I Quitter, you underestimate my ability to form opinions about characters who have minimal screen time. I'm having feelings about this guy, and they're not. Yeah.
This guy is not it.
No, yeah, definitely not the best.
Truly.
But alas.
Oh, back to the main cast. Jeremy can't work out Xana's motivations, but Aelita's at least has worked out where the tower is. Sewer montage! As Yumi heads to the factory and straight to the scanners. Jeremy realises at long last what Xana's trying to do. It's sending the bus towards the petrochemical complex. Even Jim cutting wires on the bus doesn't seem to work. He sinks to his knees, knowing there's no way to stop it. The bus driver says they'll have to jump, but they don't all have miraculous plot armour the same way that Odd Delarovia does. Besides, the doors won't open. Truly, though, it's like, what do you expect at this point? The bus has massively sped up, and they would not
Jim
stand a
cut all
chance.
the wires. The bus driver gets pissed at him. He's like, now look what you did.
Right? It's like, at least Jim tried to do something.
Yeah.
Didn't just patronise female students. Thank you very much. But yeah. Ulrich lets Jim know where the bus is headed and that Jeremy can help. They just have to trust him. Sissy's having a reflective moment, and she apologises for the whole thing with the diary. Can I help in any way, she asks, and Ulrich hands her the phone to communicate with Jeremy. I do, again, it's a nice kind of parallel to the previous episode, where the stakes get really high, they're having the near-death experience, and Sissy gets this moment to reflect on her behaviour, which, again, gets erased, R.I.P., I'm really sad about it, but it is a really nice moment for her here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The script says she nods in a lot of composure.
Oh, and yeah, she's actually very calm at this point, which, again, more proof that she would not really be that bad as a Lyoko warrior. Like, she's keeping her head in a crisis.
When the chips are down, like, Sissy handles herself better than, like...
William.
A lot of people would. And yes, William.
Truly.
When the stakes are down, William complains about not knowing how to swim, and then gets knocked out by Miss Hertz while he's distracted. I mean, what did William do? He stopped a bomb. That's nice, but he wouldn't have needed to stop a bomb if Aelita hadn't been stupid and left that tower in the first place. But oh well.
In which Quitter
a discussion for another year.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get there when we get there, and I very much look forward to the rant that is going to transpire. On Lyoko, Yumi and Aelita head to the tower. It's right there within easy reach. Too easy. Yumi suspects a trap, and sure enough, a sandstorm approaches.
They should do this more often. I'm sorry, but we never see. We don't see a whole lot of environmental attacks in Lyoko, apart from a couple of scenes in season 1, and I think there might be like 1 or 2 overall later in the show. But it's like I feel like it's a rarely used tactic. Xana could be like seriously upping his game here if he wanted to like get rid of them that quickly on Lyoko by just having more environmental attacks.
For sure, like, do we see the sandstorm again, particularly?
I don't
no, we do not.
No,
That's such a shame. Do we see a snowstorm, or is that like something
No!
No,
right?
It was planned, actually. There was planned to be a snowstorm,
There should have been.
We'll get there when we get there.
Oh, that's such a shame. Gosh, like, so a couple of ideas that I had, like the Vines episode, we see, like, the Earth side. Imagine if Xana had done something like that with the plant life in the forest sector. That would have been really cool. What about if it had, like, sprung up a field of cacti in the desert that dealt damage when you walk through them?
Oh, that would have been
or maybe
neat.
some kind of, like, flower that caused hallucinations on Lyoko when you, like, breathed in the pollen or whatever. Those were a couple of ideas that I had, which I thought could have been really, really cool weather ideas. So, yeah, I don't know. If you have any other ideas for Lyoko-related traps that the gang could have encountered, please let us know. Very, very curious to hear if you have any other ideas. But yeah, so much potential, which it's a real shame that they dropped the ball on that, really. Yumi and Aelita flee from the storm and the megatank, which also appears at this point. Meanwhile, Sissy, Ulrich and Jeremy communicate through the phone as the bus veers left. Jim suggests jumping again, but Sissy isn't sure they'd survive at these speeds.
She's right.
Sorry, Quitter, go on. Yeah, no, truly, like, this, I don't know if we ever see the gauge of the speed on the bus, but it's going fast.
I think the last we see it is like at 100 kilometers.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
Well, I know we saw it at first when Odd said we're zipping along at 2 miles an hour, and the dial says, I don't know what the dial says. I thought it said 20, but I could have been seeing that wrong.
Oh yeah, 20 originally, like when it's going slow as hell.
Yeah.
And then, it speeds up. So in the script, it says about the scene where like Sissy is like, oh, to the left. Serious and focused, Sissy turns, her mobile phone glued to her ear to transmit information.
Oh.
And then like, Sissy, let's turn left. And then Ulrich's like, everyone with me, and goes to the right side. And then the bus veers sharply to the left, so much that it lifts on one side. The outer wheels turn in a vacuum.
Ooh.
but it ends up falling back heavily on all its wheels.
That's so cool. We talked about this, and I think we lost a little bit of this because of the audio stuff, but how descriptive the scripts are and the stage directions and how much flavour they add to the scenes. And that is a perfect example. That's really cool.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you for sharing that quote. I super appreciate that you did all the digging with the scripts and stuff. It is, it's great. It adds a lot to the analysis.
It is really cool.
Super interesting to see. On Lyoko, Yumi faces off against the Megatank, and the two girls almost fall into the digital sea. Aelita uses her creativity powers to form a bridge over the gap that Xana has formed in the landscape, which sets them back on track. Again, another cool piece of landscape manipulation on Lyoko that Xana didn't do again. So basically what it does in this episode, if you're not actually directly watching it, it kind of like makes a bunch of fissures and cracks in the landscape and kind of splits the land apart. So obviously they're setting the girls up to fall into the digital sea. And yeah, just really cool. And I don't think that ever happens again.
No.
Question mark.
And
Which one? The cracks open?
Yeah.
No, not really.
no, the
That's a
only other
shame.
thing I can think of that he like really does in terms of terrain manipulation is in one of the episodes in season 1 where he like turns an entire plateau in the desert on
Plagued.
its side, and Aelita
Yeah, that's plagued.
and Aelita makes a little plateau for them to like all fall onto, basically, with her creativity, like while they're falling, which is a huge feat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For sure. That's pretty badass, actually. Odd de la Gobia title card. Odd heads to the scanners, and there's only 10 minutes until the bus reaches the chemical complex. Yumi is devirtualized from behind by a megatank in what is one of the most disappointing scenes ever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Bit of a shame.
I love it.
Like, the only thing she does on Lyoko is push Aelita out of the way of one shot. And then she gets hit twice and she's done.
It's
Rip.
a poor showing, for sure. She gets screwed over by the writers quite a bit, as we've talked about.
I mean, Yumi and Megatanks is just tragic, really. She's not good against them at all.
The no TP of the series, for sure. She leaves Aelita alone on Lyoko, but luckily Odd arrives just in time to save her as another fissure appears in the landscape. The bus, chased by a fleet of police cars, speeds to the complex. The desert sector continues to splinter apart under Odd and Aelita's feet, and the sandstorm rages, with a megatank chasing Odd and Aelita through it. The two hold hands and run for their lives, Odd flinging Aelita over a gap and luring the megatank to its virtual demise.
That was the smoothest move I have ever
really cool.
seen. Jeremy would have been pissed if this were in a later part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
For like just Odd putting Aelita's life in danger. But like that was amazing.
Yeah, really good.
Definitely cool. I also love their holding hands. And Odd has these like giant paws, so it's just like his entire like kitty
That's
glove.
a good point.
Like,
I didn't think of that. Oh my god.
It's just really funny. Like if you, just these unnaturally gigantic paw hands, just really funny to see.
It is cute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Some other things from the script. Well, I mean, it's obviously very descriptive. I can read out the megatank falling into the...
Oh,
digital
yeah.
sea.
Please, I'm here for it. I'm loving these. Go for
First
it.
off, it's also like the first time the digital sea is mentioned in Code Lyoko.
Ooh, cool. Yeah, and I guess we don't really, we can intuit from the context that it's obviously a bad thing if you fall off the platform.
Yeah.
If you've ever played a video game in your life, then you know that, falling into the abyss is bad. But yeah, it's really interesting that it's just kind of thrown out there, like so many other things so far, and you just don't really get to see any of it, get to hear any explanation for any of it. But yeah. Anyway, hit us with this stage direction.
Let's see. First off, you know how the Future Flash was only used in 4 episodes?
Mm-hmm.
There's actually quite a few deleted episodes. I mean, deleted scenes in episodes which have a Future Flash.
Ooh.
And this one's one of them.
Oh.
Where it basically showed Aelita falling through the cracks. Which was... I'm trying to get my thoughts in on that.
No,
okay,
go
so
for it.
the scene when Odd gets virtualized and Aelita's like, Odd, over here, and then she nearly falls, which was a bit silly of her, not gonna lie. The only reason why Odd is able to save her in the script is because he does see a Future Flash right as he arrives, where Aelita falls into the crevice that pops up right between her feet. And also, let's see. As for the Megatank scene, Odd progresses by hiding Aelita behind him to protect her. As the tornado dissipates slightly, Odd turns to check behind him. He sees the armed Megatank that follows them. Odd immediately swivels and arms his wrist, but the curtain of sand hides the monster again. Odd grimaces. He looks around looking for an idea. His gaze crosses the crevice and lingers there. Convinced, Odd turns to Aelita. Odd says, I have an idea. Do you trust me? Aelita nods. Grabbing her hand, Odd stops, his head turned to look behind him. The megatank appears. Odd lets it get a little closer before giving the signal. Let's go. Odd starts running like crazy with Aelita towards the crevice. The megatank immediately chases them. It's gaining ground. There's a planned shot of the feet of the heroes a few steps from the crevice. The megatank will catch up with Aelita and touch her, running her over. Jeremy screaming from off screen, Odd, you're crazy! But at the last moment, Odd pushes Aelita to the side, while he himself leaps to the other side. The way for the megatank is clear, and carried away by its rolling, the monster falls into the crevice and disappears into the digital void.
Oh.
Jeremy and Yumi sigh, relieved.
Beautiful.
Love that. That's so cool. Oh, amazing. Thank you for that. Like, I'm like on the edge of my like proverbial seat listening, even though I know what's going to happen. I'm like, oh my God, it's so tense. I love it. It's great. Shout out to the script writers for putting so much energy into the script. And then, yeah, like they do a really good job with it. So yeah, we have one dead megatank, then which clears the way for Odd and Aelita to reach the tower at last. On Earth, Jim smashes through the window of the bus and hangs out, held in place by Ulrich and his classmate Heidi. What's the matter, quips Ulrich. Don't you like it here, Jim? Which, Ulrich, that's really inappropriate. Like, this is not the time for jokes.
No.
He's got to cope somehow.
That's true, I guess.
Also, shout out to Ulrich and like the goat Heidi Klinger for being able to hold up Ulrich.
Yeah, I was
Jim
thinking that
falling.
too. Like they must be running on pure adrenaline to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. If this was something that didn't get erased by RTTP, it would be like, you two get A+ in phys ed for the rest of the year. No doubt. But yeah, they're seconds from crashing and Ulrich accepts that it's all over. It's too late. We see the usual cuts between Lyoko and Earth, Sissy and Ulrich clinging to one another, and Aelita entering the Code Lyoko.
Oh, and Jeremy actually does tell Aelita to hurry this time, though, in the tower.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And she does run to the tower, but I think she, like, still walks inside the tower.
For sure. Yeah, no, very good notable point. Maybe we should start a count of that. How often he tells her to hurry versus whatever.
So far, it's been twice.
Excellent. 2 out of 4. Ain't bad. In the absolute nick of time, with millimeters to spare from the chemical plant, the bus rolls to a stop. Jeremy launches a return to the past, and white light engulfs the world once more, with the day saved. I like just the sheer relief from Jeremy and Yumi here as well. That's quite a nice little...
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready for
Really
a return
cute.
trip back in time? And she just like nods and she's like, yes. Mood. At school, after returning in time, Yumi retrieves Ulrich's diary from the girls' bathroom. She hands it to him and in a very tender moment smiles and says she didn't read it, she swears. I'll tell you about it one day, Yumi. Yeah, I'd like that. Oh god, that's so cute. Ulrich and Yumi in season 1 is just completely adorable.
It is so great. Like, where's the magic?
It gets lost, for sure, under all the drama, but... Also, I just want to note that the temptation to read this must have been very, very intense. Like, imagine, like, this guy, she clearly has a crush on Ulrich and, like, could have had the perfect insight into what makes him tick, how he really feels about her. Yumi is, like, peak maturity here and just a really good friend,
Oh, yeah.
honestly.
Totally. Like, good for her for sticking to her principles.
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean, not
you can
that
really
stopped her
tell...
from reading...
Sorry, Soul, go ahead.
I was just going to say not that stopped her from reading Sissy's diary, but, like, you know, it's fine.
Different, like, circumstance. Like, she did it to, like, stop, like, Sissy from reading Ulrich's diary in the first place.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Diana, what were you going to say?
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say you can really tell how much Yumi respects Ulrich and his privacy. Just, like, she has a lot of respect for her friends, versus, like, Sissy does not have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah.
For sure. Yumi and Sissy, with regards to Ulrich, you can draw some really interesting contrasts and parallels. And yeah, this is one of those ones where it's like, yeah, this is why Ulrich has these friends. And they respect each other and they care about each other, and here's like what to do versus Sissy's very obvious what not to do. Yeah, it's a really nice scene for these two. I really like it. I can definitely see why people are so crazy about shipping them, like through the bits like this.
Yeah.
Also, well, actually, no. I'll talk about this when the episode ends.
For sure.
The episode's gonna end in.
There's a couple more points I think that we need to touch on, but
like there's like one more scene.
Yeah, for sure. So Ulrich leaves in time to meet Sissy, as she'll be waiting by his room the same as she did the first time around. Sure enough, there she is, and she's stunned when Ulrich holds up the diary, showing that he knew about her scheme and thwarted her already. Sissy storms away. Ulrich opens his door to find his friends waiting for him. Jeremy claps and Odd leaps for joy. On a freeze frame and a final cry of yes, the episode ends. So
I love that.
Sissy knows about Lyoko. I know, I love it. It's so cute. And we never get a freeze frame ending after this.
No,
we
don't.
Time, right?
And I like another thing that I wrote down in my notes is that they use the theme song so many times in this episode, like various instrumental versions of it. And I really like this, like one bit at the end where it's just the one instrument like playing the theme. I think that it really adds to it because like they succeeded in not only the Xana attack but also stopping Sissy from blackmailing Ulrich. But you bring up a good point. So was this did this take place before she read it or after? It had to have taken place after because Yumi found the diary on top of the water tank.
And also, again, I find it difficult to imagine that Sissy didn't open this diary as soon as she got it.
Right.
I mean, there's also the possibility that she found it and went and stored it and, like, you know, went and did something else and read it later. But I can't imagine that she would have this book in her hands and not immediately open it, right?
Right.
So,
knowing Sissy, she
guess
would have opened it, like, immediately.
Yeah. I mean, I can see, like, the only explanation I can really think of right now is that, like, she started to read it from the beginning, where there was, like, no mention of Sana, and it was just, like, even younger Ulrich being like whiny and sulky and his typical self really. And then like probably like class starting or having to get ready with her like hour-long like skincare session and then not having time to like get to the parts where it mentions Sana.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That kind of makes sense. Yeah. I think you can kind of explain it away with that kind of logic, and that makes sense, you know. Yeah, she started reading it, she got distracted, but yeah, it's just really interesting to think that there is the very, very much the possibility that she knows about Lyoko and Sana throughout the entire rest of the series. Like, that's just dumb as heck. And, like, there's no way that they could confirm or deny that, really, you know? Like, they don't know exactly when. You'd think that they would add an extra day to the return to the past, if possible, in order just for insurance to like make sure she never got the diary in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also,
So
this is season 1, and it's episodic, and we're never going to hear about it again.
Alas. I know,
True,
but
true.
the fan and the over-analytical mind in me and the fanfiction writer craves continuity, and everything must be explained. But yeah.
Understandable.
For sure. Shall we go over some stats? Ouchies.
Sure.
Quitter, have you got any a
Okay.
rundown of the ouchies for us?
Before that, I'd like to mention...
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's just... Have you guys noticed that, like, Nicholas didn't appear a single time this episode?
I did notice that. Yeah, he's just not there. Maybe today was his sick day.
Yeah. No, actually, he was mentioned in the script, like, a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, instead of, like, Herbert sitting next to Emily, which is a pretty weird choice, like, he was sitting next to Nicholas instead.
Huh.
And in one of the scenes where like Sissy is directing everyone and Ulrich's like telling everyone to get somewhere, the script mentions that like this time the bus veers so hard the bags and other equipment falls out of storage. Nicholas gets hit on the head by one.
Oh no, Nicholas! That's so funny. Oh wow, I guess they just like cut him out for whatever reason for this episode. That's kind of a shame actually, but you know.
Yeah,
they
it's
thought about
also a
him.
weird choice to have Herb sitting next to Emily because like she's not supposed to even be in their class.
She's in the grade above.
Right,
I
she's
completely
in
forgot
Yumi's
about that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Like, I really like the consistency in the background characters and the fact that, like, they tend to be seen together with like friendship groups, and there's some relationships. Like I think Kristoff and Bella and Heidi Klinger start dating at some point, and you see them together through the rest of the season.
So cute! What the hell?
Right? I'm gonna have to check that, but it's definitely two characters who start dating, and you kind of see them. And I want to say her name's Azura, starts hanging out with Sissy in season 4, and you kind of see them together. And like, there's some ways in which the continuity of the background characters is very well done. And then there's sometimes where it's like, no, wait, they're not supposed to be in this class, and it's kind of really off the wall, like badly continuity'd. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, quite.
But yeah, no, I'd completely forgotten. And as we all find out in the episode later this season, Goutine, Emily is in the grade above. So yeah, good spot, Queer.
Quite.
Yeah. It's...
As for injuries, let's see. So this is episode 4, and thus far, thanks to Jim both nearly falling out of the window and crashing into the petrochemical plant, this is the 4th time he's nearly died in the series.
Wow.
Yeah, it's also the 3rd time Ulrich and Sissy have nearly died, so they're in the lead. Mm-hmm. And then it's the 2nd time for like Herb and Nicholas and everyone else in that class.
Damn.
That's interesting.
I mean, most of these people aren't even affiliated with Xana directly, and yet here they are, like, just...
Oh, yeah. It gets quite a bit worse.
Yeah, no doubt. I look forward to seeing how that unfolds. Any other interesting devirtualization stats or anything like that?
Well, I mean, it's the first time Yumi goes to the desert. Mm-hmm. It's also the first time she gets the virtualized in the desert. It's the first time she gets the virtualized by a Megatank, which is going to be pretty reoccurring, not going to lie. Mm-hmm. And, well, Megatanks pop back up, like, in the very next episode. And it's in the desert, too, so... not really something exciting in there.
I'm a little tired of seeing the desert sector so much.
Yeah,
it is so strange. Like, 4 out of the first 5 attacks are in the desert. Like, why?
Right? They've got these, like, 4 wonderful, colourful, creative sectors, and they just stick to the one. It's a little...
We haven't even seen the ice or the mountain yet.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
You could be forgiven for thinking.
We've only seen the forest and the desert. I like the forest sector a lot in season 1. But I think that next to that, my favorite is probably the mountains, just because of like the ambiance.
Yeah, it is.
But
really
only
cool.
in season 1.
I love the mountains. Fair enough.
That's fair. I can never really pick a favorite sector. It changes all the time. One day I'll kind of come to a definitive decision, but now is not the time. I'll and all about it too long if I try to answer that question now. Any other stats or anything worthy of note?
Well, it's the first time a Megatank falls into the digital sea, and it definitely won't be the last. There's like 5 more instances of that occurring.
Good.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I guess it's pretty easy for them to roll off that plateau, though, eh?
No, yeah. It's like, it's funny because like sometimes their weakness, or like their only weakness really, is that they can't stop themselves, and then sometimes they just stop dead and continue shooting and killing Yumi. But I don't know.
Yumi specifically. Yeah, it's interesting. I like hearing about the monster stats, and there's a lot of them that have been very surprising over the course of each arc.
I mean, I love the monsters. I think their designs are so well done. They're all very distinct from each other, but like they all have like, you can definitely see them all being produced from like the same creator.
Yeah, definitely. They've all got a certain kind of style to them, as you say. And
going from like the very jagged, like spiky stuff of the crabs and the cancrelats and the blocks will have some very spiky stuff. The hornets too. And then we go to the mantis and the tarantulas, and they're all so streamlined. Like it really goes to show like the progression of power between season 1 and season 2. Mm-hmm. Thought that was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And in universe, possibly shows Xana's kind of power and intelligence developing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool. We should do a poll at some point for best monster design, I think.
I think that's a great idea.
We should do that.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. As far as outsider point of view goes, Sissy Delmas, poor Sissy, finds somehow that her plan to steal Ulrich's diary is thwarted. He somehow ends up with his diary back before she can even tell him that it's missing. Must have been very strange for her. Yeah, that's probably the only thing of note, honestly. Yeah. Ratings out of 5 for this episode. Anyone want to go ahead with one of those?
4.5.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
I think that
high.
it was really good because there was a lot of suspense here. While there were a few pacing issues, I think that overall it was a much better episode, in my opinion, than Holiday in the Fog, which was kind of all over the place. I liked that we got to see a little bit more in depth into Sissy's personality. I think that Jim actually played a pretty decent supporting role this time compared to some other episodes where he like kind of doesn't. And I like how Jeremy pretty much kept himself very composed throughout the whole episode versus like in a lot of other episodes later on, he just like freaks the fuck out like very easily. So I don't know. I'd overall say that it was a pretty decent, almost perfect episode overall. It's not by any means my favorite. Well, maybe I don't know. I'd say either like a 4 or 4.5 because while the Earth stuff was pretty suspenseful and I liked the environmental attack on Lyoko, it is boring that we're in the desert yet again. And Yumi being devirtualized was just too easy.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's fair. Yeah. Quitter, do you want to go ahead with your rating?
I mean, I'd probably give it like between a 4, maybe like a 3.75 or like a 4.25, between that range. I mean, I thought it was definitely way better than Holiday in the Fog. I totally agree with you on that. The Lyoko attack was interesting. The Earth attack was interesting. Everyone got like at least one solid moment, which I do appreciate. I mean, I liked it. I guess like the only negative things I could really point out is, as you said, Yumi getting absolutely wasted, which is pretty hilarious, but at the same time, still a shame.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I guess just some things just not making a lot of sense unless you try to like retroactively justify them.
Yeah, so that's what I thought too. I actually just kind of bumped my rating to a 4 as I was explaining myself. But just so we're clear, because I am keeping a spreadsheet of our ratings.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I am nowhere near organized enough for that.
Definitely good.
So for your actual like final committed rating number, what would you say, Quitter? Like a 4?
Yeah, let's go for a 4.
Cool. I'm going to agree with you both and go for a 4 for pretty much the same reasons. It is a little frustrating to see the desert sector again, even though I really liked Xana's attack in the desert this time around. I thought that was cool. But yeah, Yumi gets a bad rap. Desert's pretty boring to see again, considering there's so many other places on Lyoko to play with. I really like Sissy's development in the story, even though it gets, erased, RIP. I really like the character moments that we get. We get a little bit of Jeremy and Odd, which is cute, a little bit of Jeremy and Ulrich, a little bit of Jeremy and Yumi. Lots of those really, really minor character moments that are just really nice and flesh out the episode in a really satisfying way. Everyone had kind of a nice arc this episode. The Earth attack was a little bit naff, not the most exciting one, but also had a real tension to it. I feel like the pacing was pretty good. And unlike Holiday in the Fog, you can actually justify some of the things that don't quite make sense, and you can kind of come to a bit of logical workaround. Whereas in Holiday in the Fog, the setup just did not make any sense, which threw me out of the episode. So, to say the least. Honestly, I'm really surprised. I said this on Discord, but when we did Holiday in the Fog, and we actually analysed like some of the plot holes, I was like, oh yeah, this really kind of ruined my suspension of disbelief, honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
it's interesting watching the show like by yourself and then coming together to talk about it as a group, because like we all noticed different details and have different opinions, and it kind of like, at least for me, like opens up my mind a little more as to like, hey, this episode actually wasn't fantastic, or like, yeah, I did notice the pacing issues, but I didn't think about it as much until now.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I hope people are enjoying about the podcast too. You know, it's just a fresh perspective or 3 perspectives. And then obviously, if you want to chime in with your own stuff, we've had some really cool insights on the Discord too and through Twitter, which has been really awesome. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to look at this, even though I've turned this show over and over in my mind so many times. I'm finding even more new perspectives by doing the podcast. So it's neat. Cool. All right, so solid 4 out of 5 across the board. I was going to add in a Jeremy Belpoir crime count, but he doesn't commit any crimes this episode. So
good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
However,
last week it was oh, go on.
I had in my notes, like, how did he track the bus? Because
good question.
He could have pinged Ulrich's phone, but then he had to get the route that they were traveling on, like, to their final destination, and see that they were actually going to be hitting the plant. So I'm wondering, and this might be a reach, but it's Jeremy, because the bus is electronic, that he was able to, like, hack into the GPS somehow or something and figure out, like, where they were going that way. Because, like, otherwise, how else would he be able to track them? I mean, like, tracking them, he could have pinged the phone, but, like, showing their final destination, how else would he have been able to figure that out?
You're not
probably
wrong.
I guess a non-illegal way. Probably just, like, seeing, like, the way the bus was going and trying to figure out what was the biggest, most priority target he could, like, aim for.
I guess
because, like, yeah, if 2 episodes ago, like, he targeted a nuclear plant, I guess, like, Jeremy could have figured that maybe Santa was going for something just as, or...
See, so on his computer screen when he was tracking the bus, I thought that it showed, like, a little route, like, specifically from where the bus was to the chemical plant. But I might have misinterpreted that. I
have no idea, not gonna lie.
Okay, so jury might well be out on whether he committed a crime this episode or not. Do we gonna... Cool. Do we want to say yes or no?
I don't think he did. I was just curious as to, like, how he was able to follow the bus, because I don't think him hacking into the GPS is a crime.
Okay.
I mean, again, jury's out. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna say no. There's probably some logical explanation there. He's not always.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He isn't addicted yet.
No, he's not. He's only broken into an abandoned factory, and what else has he done? Spray painted a wall. Are these his first 2? What else has he done?
Baby's first crimes.
Yes, he's yet to become the great cyber criminal that he will eventually be. Oh, amazing. Okay, that was a really fun episode. Shall we move on to our discussion topic for this week?
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, sweet. Okay, so one of the things that was quite interesting about this episode, as we've kind of just touched on there, is that Jeremy took a bit of time to work out Xana's motivations and where it was headed. So this episode on the podcast, I'd like to talk about Xana. What are Xana's motivations and what motivates it to behave how it does? Like, there's so many ways that you can interpret Xana's character, and I would love to hear what you two think. So, yeah, have at it.
Its motivations in season 1 or in, like, the entire series?
Well, overall, hey, do you think it changes?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely say that it changes.
So where do we start out with Xana and where do we end up?
I think that we start out with more localized attacks, just like general, not specifically him targeting the warriors, as we'll see in later episodes and later seasons. But like this attack, for example, in Logbook, it was targeting, I mean, the only person on the bus that was part of the group was Ulrich. Odd got out. Mm-hmm. Yumi went to Lyoko. Jeremy was in the lab. So, and obviously I'm assuming that the resulting explosion from the bus hitting the plant would have been bad, but not bad enough to like wipe out France. Like it probably would have injured a lot of people within a certain radius, maybe caused like a massive fire because, you know, they're like bowling right into a chemical plant. But in terms of like at least this episode, it's very different than his motivation in later parts of the show where he's like specifically targeting the warriors versus and you know, I guess like world domination as a whole. But this one I just thought was very interesting because it's not, I feel like it's not a super specific like way of targeting them because Ulrich really was the only one from the group who would have been killed.
It seems a bit like undirected chaos, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I definitely do agree. Like, I'd like to mention, I mean, I guess we've already talked about this earlier, well, more like quite a few months ago, but I could see Xana as like being sort of like a baby. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, it's like first attacks are pretty much like the tantrums it throws. I mean, Teddy Godzilla is what it is. Then, of course, it's really wanton destruction. And some of its attacks, like swarming attack, I mean, that in the end barely targets the warriors at all. It nearly ends up killing Sissy instead. So then, like, it, like, as it becomes more and more, like, grown up, so to speak, as it collects more data, as it begins to know, like, Jeremy and everyone else better, its attacks become, like, more refined. Even by the end of Season 1, like, Robots was pretty clearly aiming for the Full Lyoko warriors. Mm-hmm. And then in Season 2, it opts for, like, a more subtle approach from then on. Well, except for a few episodes. But, like, you can clearly see Xana's goal change from, like, just killing everything it can to, like, straight up attempting to kill a Lita in Season 2. To, like, when it gets its goal in Season 2, it then attempts to, like, stop the warriors from interfering with it in Season 3. And when it does, like, it tries to achieve what I think is its ultimate goal, which is to kill Franz Hopper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It is. I would agree with that assessment for sure. And I really like the idea that Xana develops intelligence, I guess, and, like, quote unquote matures. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And it's really interesting that you can chart that progress. I think you can either see Xana as an enemy that's purely following its programming and can't be reasoned with and just kind of becomes, I guess, more unstable, or, like, I don't know, deteriorates somehow in its programming as it goes on. Or you can kind of attribute some human qualities to it and kind of talk about pride and hubris and wrath and the way that it does develop this obsession with the Lyoko warriors. And my brain is kind of empty of specific instances, but I remember thinking that there are times where Xana is so focused on hurting the Lyoko warriors that it doesn't actually achieve any of its goals.
Right.
Like, it's too busy, like, choking Jeremy to death to actually, like, carry out its attack or whatever, which is really, really interesting to me, the way that obsession and that fixation ends up manifesting.
Yeah, it's funny that, like, for being a human, like, a program, it's Xana's, like, very distinct human qualities of, like, sadism and, like, cruelty and, of course, like, a very vindictive personality, really. Mm-hmm. That, like, characterize it so much. And yet, those exact same human qualities are both the ones that allow it to understand the warriors better and thus, like, be able to understand and play with their motivations. But it also, like, at the very end, they are their downfall because he is so focused on revenge and so focused on asserting its superiority in, like, a certifiable way that it often just lets very good opportunities slip by.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and it's also agree. It's kind of ironic that if we do assume that Xana's programming is to destroy humanity, if it does end up becoming, like, a bit human itself, there's a nice irony there.
Yeah, totally.
Do we think that... So Xana was created to destroy Project Carthage, so do we think that that is exactly what its original programming line was? Destroy humanity, and that is what its, like, focus starts out being? Do we know that definitively through canon? This is kind of me asking you real quick canning of you, because I'm like, oh, have I got this guy? I don't want to spread misinformation in this speculation, so...
I mean, if I remember correctly, Santa, yes, was originally created by Franz Hopper to kill, to destroy Project Carnage, which pretty much means that, like, all of Season 4 is, like, teenage rebellion in a very massive scale, with a teenager wanting to kill its dad. But, like, I think the thing was that it eventually, like, started, like, self-evolving and, like, self-learning until, like, up to the point that where when France noticed that Santa's main focus had changed into, like, killing him and Aelita and humanity as a whole, like, it was too late to stop it.
Yeah, definitely. I guess branching on from that, we talked about this a little bit in the Discord earlier today. Do we think Xana, in so much as it can as an AI, do you think it views Franz as a father figure and then subsequently Aelita as a sibling? Do we think there's some sibling rivalry to be read into this whole Xana-Aelita interaction?
In a very twisted way, I would definitely say that. I mean, as much as, like, Xana clearly loathes Franz Hopper, I mean, it also, like, clearly respects it, judging by, like, the ways it's attempted to, like, kill him. Like, it never goes at it unprepared. Literally, Santa spares Aelita and, like, stops the meteor from crushing into the entire, like, factory and Caddock, really, just so it could have another chance to kill Franz Hopper. And Aelita, I mean, I could definitely, like, Santa is very obsessed with Aelita in, like, a very interesting way. I mean, would you guys say Santa hates Aelita?
Dan, I'm going to let you go ahead and answer that, because you haven't talked for a while.
Yeah, I think that he probably does. I think that the analysis, or I think that the sibling rivalry analysis is very interesting, considering that Xana is kind of similar to Aelita, at least in season 1, is in terms of he only knows about humans what he learns by, like, observing. So I think that to humanize him in that way and to say that there is a sort of sibling rivalry, I can see why that would be the case, because France was his creator, Aelita is France's daughter, and I think that it's very interesting that that would even be brought up as an analysis. Actually, I've never heard of it spoken about in that way. So I would kind of agree, I guess, that the rebellion aspect in season 4 and in general, like the will of Xana to want to destroy humanity, especially the Lyoko warriors and Aelita, is a way of teenage rebellion and sibling rivalry, but also he wants to destroy France. Because, like, even though France was his creator, Xana evolved into something that France could no longer control, right? And that's why, like, we are here now with the way that Lyoko is. So I think that because of Xana's evolution into a malicious being, that, you know, his will to kill France and Aelita and all of humanity, it's very interesting to kind of circle back around and say that they have a sibling rivalry, or that it's, like, similar to that of a teenage rebellion, because all he just wants to do is kill everybody.
I think it's definitely one interpretation. It's not the one that the sibling rivalry interpretation, that is. It's not the one that I really take as my main headcanon, but I do think it's interesting. And at the very least, you can draw those parallels to it. I think there is possibly a bit of interesting fanon to fill in. Like, as far as we know, obviously Franz homeschooled Aelita while he worked on the supercomputer in the factory nearby. And that, do you think that Aelita was ever around the factory as a younger kid?
No.
When he was doing that? No, do you not think that was a thing?
Well, I think that she says as much in the flashback that she has when he takes her there, because she's like, what is this place? Where are we?
Oh, yeah. True.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for correcting me. I don't know, considering that, like, I think about the show a lot, sometimes, like, little details just slip through the cracks of my brain, so Yeah, no, that's fair. I did have another point that I wanted to raise here. If Xana did defeat the gang, so, you know, we talked about this transition from destroy humanity and kind of just chaotic, random, destructive attacks to specifically hurt these people who are my intellectual rivals and who thwart my plans, etc. So, in a world where Xana does defeat the gang, what's next? What happens? What do we think?
It dies of boredom.
Yeah.
No, like literally, that is what I think it would do. It'd be satisfied for a millisecond, and then it missed the challenge. Because like, apart from those 5, who has like ever really resisted Xana in an effective manner? Sissy. And apart from that, nobody really.
Right.
And like, they've done so much, like they have such a huge history. Xana has become like, its entire like motivation for existing and continuing all of its attacks has been 1, to destroy Franz Hopper, 2, to destroy the Lyoko warriors, whom it's become like absolutely obsessed with. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it had like its own version of a stalker shrine or something. So like, it probably like creates a simulation of like the 5 main characters as well as it could, and then like be constantly dissatisfied with them because the Jeremy Belpois wouldn't act like this, he would be like this, and then like it'd be like eternally preoccupied with making sure the Lyoko warriors are like its Lyoko warriors, better said, are absolutely perfect.
We have definitely talked about this on Discord before, and I posited a bad end where the humanity's wiped out and Xana populates a hollowed out Caddic with polymorphed and possessed students and just runs through simulations of attacks again and again and again, trying to replicate what it had with the Lyoko warriors that it will never ever get back, because it cannot, as you say, accurately replicate them because they're gone. It's killed them.
Agreed. Yeah. Like, I remember that conversation. Really good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I definitely agreed.
Diana, any other thoughts?
No, but I want to talk for a quick second about Quitter mentioning a stalker shrine. Did either of you watch Hey Arnold when you were little?
Unfortunately not, so this is going to be lost on me, but go ahead, I'll try to keep up.
Me neither.
Oh my
God. I'm sorry.
All right, well, for those of you who are listening and know what I'm talking about, for reference, Hey Arnold was a cartoon on Nickelodeon that aired in like from the mid 90s to like the early 2000s. It was popular for its main character having a football-shaped head, American football, and the main like sort of, I guess the parallel to Sissy in the show, Helga, had a shrine in her closet dedicated to Arnold because she was like in love with him. And the shrine was made out of like chewing gum and stuff and like random things that like she had kind of like stolen from him, like to make up this shrine. So I'm just imagining Xana having like a shrine that is similar of like random shit that he's like stolen from the Lyoko warriors over time, like through the RTTP resets and stuff, because like, you know, we're under the impression that every time there's an RTTP, there's a new timeline that happens, right? So like, imagine that, okay, someone's phone broke during an attack, swipe, gone, like adding it to Xana's shrine. This probably doesn't make any sense to you two because you've never seen the show, but I guarantee you that people who are listening to this will probably know what I'm talking about. So I just was making the connection there.
No, I'm enjoying this imagery. So would this be a shrine on Earth in the factory, or like would he somehow?
Yeah, my thought is that it would be a shrine on Earth in the factory, either in like the supercomputer room or the scanner room.
That is so creepy, though. I love that idea.
Well, so is the shrine in Hey Arnold. It's literally in the back of the kid's closet.
I need to look that up.
A hidden room, like right.
Oh, I'll send an image in the Discord.
Cool.
Hold on.
Imagine imagine them stumbling across that though. Like, how freaked out would they be?
That'd be crazy. Like, God.
I guess I did have a couple more discussion points for for Xana, if we feel like we have time, do we want to?
Yeah, sure.
Sweet.
I mean, personally.
So I guess I don't know if there's a definitive attack where Xana came the closest to winning. What do we think is his most effective attack? Like, do you have a favourite? Do you have one that you think was kind of especially good or effective, or like one where Xana was like really on the right track and maybe kind of bad luck derailed it, or like if it tried it again, it might have had a better shot?
Let's see. I mean, apart from the ones that succeeded, let's see. The most effective attack that nearly succeeded, probably Hot Shower. That's the one that like pops into my head at first. The one with the meteorite.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that was like widespread, complete destruction.
And like St. Valentine's Day too, because those two like were only solved by gambles. By Jeremy gambling that like Sam would value the Cypher Soa's like. That Santa would value like Aelita's life over like the Cypher Soa actually obtaining what like Aelita had in her, the keys to Lyoko. And then in the second one, of course, Aelita like making a bet that like Santa would be so focused on wanting to destroy Franz Hopper that it'd take the loss of like being able to destroy Aelita once and for all.
That is interesting as well, hey, because Hot Shower was definitely one that risked destroying Xana as well.
Yeah.
And the same with the nuclear plant as well, actually.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. That is some... Oh, I always forget my alignment chart. I'm going to say chaotic neutral. No, is it? Yeah, chaotic evil, right? To just like completely
I
would
say chaotic evil.
Yeah, I always get those two mixed up. Yeah, to just like kill itself because it's... because that is what victory is, you know? And again, I really find it interesting. That is a really great insight, Quitter, that the Lyoko warriors have to... The way that Xana has to kind of predict the Lyoko warriors, they have to do the same back, you know? And they have to really kind of delve into Xana's psyche in order to win some of these battles. I find that so interesting, too.
Totally.
Dianna, do you have any other thoughts?
I don't. I think that this whole analysis that we're doing is very interesting, and I'd like to hear what the listeners. Oh my God, I'd like to hear what the listeners have to say. I'm sorry, Soul, you're probably going to have to edit that somehow.
It's all good, no problem. I'm pretty sure I've said viewers on multiple occasions. I mean, you can watch the like logo play as you listen to the podcast, I suppose, but it's not that interesting.
Justified.
Indeed. But yeah, no, we've kind of identified a couple of ways you can interpret Xana's characterization, and please let us know what you think. We are super, super interested. If there's any other points that we haven't raised, any other things that you think we could analyse a bit further in depth, let us know, tweet us, email us, Discord us. We are so, so interested. I definitely think there's more to be said there. But you could just go on forever, hey, just turning over every attack and like, what does this mean and what does that imply, etc., etc. So, yeah, great discussion there. Thank you very much, both of you.
Okay,
do we want to do some...
I was just going to say, do we want to move on to listener mail?
Sure, I can read it out. It's one email, thank you so much, by Gil from the Discord server. Behold my logbook thoughts. Hey guys, it's Gil from the Discord server. Guess what? I lied. The time to learn the offset press is not yet at hand, so I drafted out a thought I have not yet yelled about in the Discord, but did make a Tumblr post about after rewatching logbook. Also, still curious over whether the RTTP rewinds far enough that Sissy couldn't have still read some of Ulrich's diary, and thus know at least some of what's up with the gang for more or less the whole series. I think we already talked about this.
Yeah, we kind of logicked our way through that one, but yeah. Somehow.
Yeah. As for the other thought, Art should probably not be in the best shape after jumping off a
No!
Yeah. I mean, it was probably like still slow. It was probably closer to 20 kilometers per hour than 100 kilometers per hour. But still, if he had been a normal human, which is why we talked about the scanners like reinforcing body and etc., yeah, he'd probably be like splattered on the ground. But alas. But then he gets scanned onto Lyoko and seems little the worse for wear. I've seen some fics posit that fighting Santa has made Lyoko warriors just a bit sturdier than normal humans. but it did have me thinking about what must be going on through a 13-year-old kid's head when you've been tasked with saving the world and you know you can get hurt, potentially very badly, but it'll all be okay as long as you don't actually die. Even if you're an inch away from death, like Auden Killer Music, or for some reason the shape you're in makes virtualization unsafe, as long as you hang on until they return to the past, it'll all be okay. Maybe they just try to file it away as an extension of the big video game Lyoko runs like, and just try to not think about the time Yumi fell into the sea. Maybe it puts extra stress on Jeremy to be sure to program to return to the past before the Santa attack of the week can come for him. Not that the writers are completely consistent about his level of required involvement, contrast Image Problem with Killer Music and Attack of the Zombies. I just think about how the RTCP glows the "it's all okay" signal, and what it must feel like to be actively falling to your death one moment and then the next you're back in the middle of a normal day. Personally, I think all of the warriors might have needed a minute to scream into a pillow off screen until the adrenaline wore off.
No doubt.
Anyway, loving your show so far. I'm excited to keep listening and also take another entire day to finish an episode between all my excited fan yelling on Discord, TM. Best of luck with the recording, Gil. Sent from my iPhone.
Oh,
Thank you,
lovely.
Gil.
I also
Thank you for
please
sending
let
that
us
from
know-
your iPhone.
Yeah, and please let us
Sorry,
know in
go
the
on.
Discord if we're pronouncing your name right. I'm not sure if it's G like hard G or soft G.
It's the GIF or GIF situation.
Yeah, so it could be
all
Gil
over
or
again.
Jill. But thank you so much for the email. And I honestly, they hit on like a lot of the things that we already talked about. But another thing that I want to bring up too is the Lyoko warriors really need therapy. And unfortunately, they can't go to a therapist.
They need so much therapy. Even before Lyoko, half of them needed, like most of them, 4 to 5 of them needed therapy. And after this, they need like years. I
They
swear.
really do.
They do.
So much codependency.
Truly. And yeah, as Dianna said, they can't even get therapy. Who is going to believe them about this? I guess they could, like, you know, go to a therapist session, let everything off their chest, return in time, and save themselves, like, you know, 60 quid, and also, you know, not spill the secret. But that's not really how therapy works. Like, you need to develop ideas over time, and they just can't do that because they can't talk to anyone about this. It's really tragic when you think about it, and literally exactly as Gil/Jill said, it's traumatizing, it's stressful, you are literally faced with mortality at the tender age of 12, 13, 14 years old, and that is going to be a pretty big thing to deal with.
Yeah, especially because they have to lean so heavily on each other for everything because they're the only ones who are involved in this together. Like, they can't tell anyone without risking their secret. And it's really sad because there's all these feelings that are bottled up and they can't, like, do anything to express them or escape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ties into the theme of isolation being
Yeah.
pretty big in CL and loneliness, I think. Just really, really tragic. And I think one of the appeals of Code Lyoko is that it is such a dark show and there's so much trauma to work through, and there's so much potential for, like, talking about the hurt and comfort side of that we don't normally see in the show. And yeah, I don't know, I would say that's a big appeal of Code Lyoko and what draws people back to it. I don't know if you two agree, but
I agree.
No, I do agree. Definitely, like, one of the biggest appeals of the show is how mature it can be in some parts from being a kid show.
For sure.
Like, you can really see, like, the stress and everything, like, building down on them day after day after day. And, like, imagine if, like, the season 1 Lyoko Warriors saw their season 4 selves. They'd be horrified. Yeah. They'd be like, oh my god, this is who I've turned into after, like, so much time fighting Sana. Like, Odd doesn't care about his life. Jeremy doesn't care about anything other than, like, Sana. At least not until, like, he's been, like, mentally kicked in the face, like, a couple of times. And Aelita is, like, she's got all these troubles with Jeremy and her father and Sana, and what about her music career and everything.
She's having nightmares. She's having nightmares at 5 a.m. and waking up screaming multiple times.
It's
which,
like all
Lord
of them by the end
other...
of the show are shells of the former people that they were.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, damn. That's like, wow. Oh no, that's so sad.
Yeah, it really is.
It is true. I'm just like, oh no, we're about to end this episode thinking about what a sad time they're all gonna have. But no, it's
Well,
it really speaks to the camaraderie and the love and the trust that they have as well.
yeah.
That they do.
They
the way they
so
get through.
much. They love each other so much.
And
it's crazy.
And again, that is the thing that I know it's a bit of a cheesy, like, the power of love kind of thing, but, like, they have what Xana doesn't have and can never have, and that is ultimately, like, what wins,
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Like, Franz Hopper's sacrifice, his love for Alita, is what wins them the fight. Their tenacity to keep going again and again and again because they have each other and they, you know, can't let each other down. And, yeah, ultimately those aspects of humanity are what allow them to overpower Xana in the end.
Yeah, totally agreed.
Oh. God, it's such a good show. I love it so much. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's literally amazing.
It's incredible.
It's so good.
Yeah, it really is such a gem because, like, thinking of when it was airing, at least over here, it was like in the afternoon, like early evening. So it was like kind of like the prime, TV time for its target audience. It really was totally different than all the other kids shows that were out there. The themes were more mature. But it didn't, like, make jokes all the time. Like, it was serious when it needed to be, and it was funny when it needed to be. And
yeah, totally.
And there were just all these, like, underlying themes of darkness and loneliness and things that, like, I never picked up on watching it as it was airing when I was, like, 12. But, you know, now going back to it and rewatching it again, like, as an adult and looking at it again and analyzing it more in depth, it's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tragic. Like, their lives are so tragic.
They really are. And, yeah, I think there's an appeal in that and that trauma and that hardship and the idea of, like, things kind of suck and there's a burden and you have to keep going no matter what, that is universally appealing, whether you're a kid or an adult, because, like, life is hard, you know? And yeah, just that they take that to extremes.
Yeah, well, especially in their case, they can't do anything about, like, they can't quit. Because if they quit, then Xana wins and they're all going to die anyway. So they have to keep going no matter what. Like, there's no other option. They can't just be like, well, we're shutting down the supercomputer. Especially, you know, once the end of season 3 hits, season 2 hits, and Xana escapes from the supercomputer.
Yeah, like, at that point, even if they turn off the supercomputer, Xana's still free. Xana can still do anything at once.
Yeah. It's powerful. It's powerful, powerful stuff. Thank you again, Gil, for your email. Yeah, you gave some really thought-provoking. You gave some really good points. We touched on some of the same things, which is cool. Good to know we're all on the same page about some of the intense emotions we have about this show. We love to see it. We love to see the fandom alive and well. Is there anything else? I've got one more thing to plug if you are okay with that. Or is there anything else anyone wants to add?
No.
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, I was just going to plug the Code Lyoko fandom Secret Santa.
Yes, do it.
Yes. So by the time this episode goes live, you'll have a couple of days left to sign up, because I do believe sign-ups close on November 24th. So if you don't know about this already, it's a FanWorks exchange, so you can sign up to create fanfic, fan art, crafts, videos, anything you can think of, anything that you are able to make that you can think you can offer, and in return you'll receive a FanWorks gift from someone else. It's a really nice, fun, low pressure, festive event. I've personally received some really wonderful gifts over the years. I've received some really nice fanfics. I received some handmade keychains a few years ago, which I posted a picture of recently on Twitter. They're super, super cool. Yeah, it's just it's a nice way to kind of dip into the community and get a free extra Christmas present, I guess, or whatever holiday that you celebrate this time of year. So if that is a thing you are interested in, head on over to codesecretsanta.tumblr.com. You don't need a Tumblr to sign up. That's just where the sign-up form is hosted and the rules and the guidelines. So give it a look if it is a thing that you might be interested in. Yeah.
And we'll be linking this in the show notes as well, so you can just click the link easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Well, that's it from me. Dianna, do you want to do the outro?
Sure. All right. Well, thank you guys all for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you want to contact us like Jill did, you can email us at apodcastwithoutdanger@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Code Lyoko Pod, where you will also find our link tree with all of our links in it. You can find all the platforms that we're available on, such as Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and etc., as well as in permanent invite to our Discord server. Feel free to join that, where you can talk with us and other community members in real time about Code Lyoko and anything else that you might like. Thank you so much to our friend shookethspeare for coming up with the name of this podcast. And next time we will be talking about Big Bug, which is another explosive episode. So with that, the images that we talked about today will be linked in the show notes and on Twitter. And I believe that that is all. I think that that's everything that we got. Oh, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to rate and review. Thank you so much for whoever left us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate that. And more of that engagement will help us be more visible with their algorithm.
For sure. Thank you so much, Dianna. That's it for now. So thank you and au revoir.
Goodbye.
Bye.